It's episode number 23 of Leading Off, as tonight on this special edition of the show, ESPO and I will be joined by my co-host from Savages in the Bronx, Tom Wospil, as he's going to join us to preview the 3-game set that is the Subway Series this upcoming weekend. The Yankees and the Mets will talk on the greatest Yankee-Met rivalry moments of all time and an all-new top of the order. Plus, it's time for another What If. We haven't done What If in a few weeks. Regarding a pivotal Mets moment in history that could have led to possibly winning the World Series in 2006. Well, we'll dive into the possibilities and more tonight on Leading Off. And once again, we are live. This is episode number 23 of Leading Off, live from Studio 69 in New Jersey and REM Studio in Staten Island, New York, airing exclusively on Twitch and powered by StreamYard. And welcome back to the show on this Tuesday, September the 7th, 2021. I'm your host, Rich Rivera, and I'm being joined by a man who definitely enjoyed his day off, ESPO.
Thank you, Rich. I most definitely did. I hope you had a less than laborious Labor Day weekend. I'm glad I pronounced that right. But
that's excellent. I'm actually very impressed by you. 23 episodes later, very impressed with
the Mets certainly had a weekend full of labor, but we'll get into that later. And the Yankees keep trucking on, but
not really.
September, man, we're getting to be into that home stretch. Wild card races, division races, they are getting hot.
We're getting down to the wire, sir. It's crazy. Our first episode in September, and like I mentioned before, we are here on a Tuesday night as opposed to our typical Monday schedule. And we originally had our Monday episode scheduled for yesterday, but it was Labor Day. People have shit to do, ESPO. I'm sure you did.
Fantasy football drafts being among them, perhaps.
Yeah, so had to be smart here with Labor Day. Not everybody's going to be around, so we moved it a day up. And of course, with our other episode, with our other show, Savages in the Bronx, my other show rather, Savages in the Bronx, with my co-host Tom, who's going to be joining us on the show soon. We're going to have another episode of Savages later on tonight with a very special guest, also Mr. Alex Esposito. Who's Alex? ESPO, joining us in Savages in the Bronx for the first time later on tonight to continue this Subway Series double feature of sorts tonight on the pods. You ready for your Savages debut?
I'm very excited to get the call. My first appearance in the Savages podcast.
Of course.
A lot of pressure, very very prestigious program, and I want to make sure I keep the reputation high. So looking forward to it.
A lot of pressure on you, bud. And of course, for our Twitch viewers who are tuning in, thank you so much. As always, we always love your support. Make sure to tune in to Savage in the Bronx later tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Again, crazy Tuesday here, ESPO. Normally, we don't do these kind of things on a Tuesday, but here we are on September the 7th, 2021. Let's get things started with Ducks in the Pond. And of course, we started with injuries as always. And on the New York front, two injuries, not really breaking news. Jonathan Loaiza going down for the Yankees, 10-day IL with a right shoulder strain. Brandon Nimmo for the New York Metropolitans, now with a right hamstring strain, both 10-day IL for them. The prognosis on Nimmo last I heard was pretty good. They're very optimistic that he'll be back within the next couple of weeks. Loaiza, not so much. There's a very strong possibility that Loaiza might miss the rest of the regular season. I don't know what's going to happen, of course, in the postseason with the way the Yankees have been playing. They're lucky to make the postseason at this rate. So tough injuries for both New York teams. Are two very valuable players. I know Nimmo obviously gets criticized for his defense, but offensively speaking, at least the last time I checked, Brandon Nimmo has been playing very well for the Mets.
Yeah, obviously it's a big loss for the Mets. Kevin Pillar's hot bat notwithstanding, but what I've heard on Nimmo is that with these hamstring injuries, they can take a little longer to heal than most. So, though the Mets are still in it, if I'm going to say if and not when, that if they fall out of contention in these next few weeks, then it might be smart to shut him down and not force him back, because he is a key piece for the Mets going forward. You've heard a lot about the Mets needing to revamp their entire offense, but Nimmo definitely not a problem. He's just always getting on base, key cog in the top of the order. So they'll look to get him back soon. But for Johnny Loizaga, I should say. I can't not call him Johnny
We
Lasagna.
accept lasagna here on a Tuesday. I mean, we accepted more on a Sunday, but yes, Johnny Lasagna.
Johnny Lasagna is a real tough loss for the Yankee pen, and they should make the playoffs, Rich. You don't need to be too pessimistic, but if they can get him back in the pen for the playoffs, I think that would be a huge boost for them. And for the time being, they're going to have to manage.
Loizaga is the Yankees' best reliever in 2021. 2.25 ERA in 54 games pitched. Honestly, Tom and I on Savages, again, he's going to be joining us very shortly, made the argument that Loizaga should have been an all-star this year with the numbers he was putting up. He has been phenomenal in the role, and it paid dividends over this weekend in Game 2 against the Orioles. They lost a game. Well, it was Game 2 or Game 3. It was one of the two. Either way, Johnny Loizaga's spot would have been very crucial in a game that was a 2-3 run game that Andrew Heaney was brought in for whatever fucking reason, and he blew the fucking game, and the Orioles won. So it's already costing the Yankees. He's a big part of that team. You never thought a reliever that's not a non-closer would be so valuable to this ball club, but look at baseball nowadays, man. It's wild to see across the games that these closers that have paid millions just struggle when it matters most, more occasions than they should. And it makes you really appreciate, especially as a Yankee fan, of how great Mariano Rivera was and how consistent he was. And those very few blemishes did happen. Obviously, no reliever is perfect. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that a job for maybe pitching one inning is as tough as pitching 6 or 7 as a starter. Relief
pitching is just one of the most volatile parts about baseball, and really just any sport in general. I'd say that the year-to-year performance of relief pitching is just, I mean, you have a few guys like your Marianos, your Josh Haders today, but it just really feels like you just don't know what the hell you're going to get on a year-to-year basis out of so many of these closers. Unfortunately, you look at a guy like Edwin Diaz, elite in Seattle, and then he comes over to the Mets, and he's just been a complete wild card. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, every time I seem to talk about him, he's a bum.
Expert FME in the chat, Mets and Yankees simply cannot lose against the cellar dwellers in their divisions. Couldn't agree more with that. And Corey Fabs, former guest and co-host of Leading Off, I once heard a quote from an MLB coach in 2009. If given the option, they would take a lockdown closer over a lockdown ace if given the chance. I always disagreed, but based on both New York teams lately, now I'm not so sure. It is a wild game, and definitely a conversation for another time. We move on to our next news note here on Ducks in the Pond. The Atlanta Braves have extended Charlie Morton, the right-handed, very old pitcher, very consistent pitcher, to a one-year extension, $20 million for Charlie Morton, who is sporting a 3.47 ERA in 28 games with 185 Ks this year. Morton's always been very good with the strikeouts. Charlie Morton staying put in Atlanta.
Good for Uncle Charlie. I mean, what a crazy career he's had. Obviously, he was drafted by them about 500 years ago and worked around the majors. But though he's in the twilight of his career now, it's good to see that he'll likely get another championship, not appearance, but his championship prospects still remain active with the Braves. And he'll likely get to pitch in October again.
And we say twilight of his career, which you're correct on, but it's like it's almost as if he doesn't pitch like it's the twilight of his career. It's incredible what he's been able to do, and even over the last couple of years. And yeah, granted, he hasn't been that great since the substance enforcement, but Rich Hill was solid, up into his early 40s. And seeing what Charlie Morton's doing for Atlanta has been great. That's a guy I would have loved to have seen in pinstripes. When it came to the offseason, I think he would have been a great role. Obviously, that job ended up going to Corey Kluber. which panned out beginning of the season, not so much since he's come back from injury. But Morton, congrats to him. $20 million for a 1-year extension to stay with a team that's going to be in the playoffs most likely next year as well. So Atlanta Braves for Charlie Morton. And
you know where Charlie Morton's from, Rich? Flemington, New Jersey.
Of course he is. Of course he's from New Jersey. We can do a
Jersey
whole
boy. Got to represent.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and Todd are our favorite New Jerseyans.
Todd
our
Frazier
last note,
from New Jersey? No way.
He is from New Jersey. And did you know he played in the Little League? No, I'm not going to start with that. All right, the Mets have placed Zack Scott, their general manager, on administrative leave after his DWI charge. Sandy Alderson's going to assume the role of general manager with Scott on his absence. Espo, what was your initial reaction with another general manager losing his duties?
Zack Scott, you're a fucking idiot. Why are you showing up for work the rest of the season? I mean, he's on administrative leave on a technicality, if you want to call it that, but this man's as good as gone. I think maybe he doesn't know it, but if he's smart, which he actually doesn't seem to be very smart because he's getting a DUI. It's really incomprehensible in this day and age to be getting drunk driving offenses. You know, obviously with Uber and Lyft, it's just a call away, any ride, anytime. I'm not giving them the advertisement here, but like, it's just frustrating.
I got to ask you a question though. Like, when is a DWI charge like a fireable offense from a Major League Baseball team, especially if no one was hurt?
No, but to me, it just really demonstrates a complete lack of judgment and good morals, which if I'm going to have someone managing my franchise and picking the talent that's going to come up through the ranks, I want that person to be a good judge of character. And to me, it just shows that they are not the right person to lead the franchise.
So you don't want your general manager going on a drinking binge going into the winter meetings this year and
no,
trades.
I don't want anyone doing that.
Oh my God, that would have been fantastic.
I'm not saying you can't drink. Everyone can drink and have a good time, but it's just a complete lack of responsibility. It
reminds me of my lonely nights playing LB the Show and doing franchise mode, like drunk and just like trading every fucking all-star.
Oh man,
C, D level prospects for no reason. It's a good time.
You know, maybe that's the only way to explain the performance of the Mets for the better part of the last decade is drunk GMs. But I digress.
Expert FME once again. Espo for the new Mets GM. They can get him real cheap. What's your price, Espo?
My price is man, I do that shit for free, but because I'm in a good position here because I know I'm better than Zack Scott. I'm going to say $1 billion because I'm working with Steve Cohen.
Not bad.
Should get it. Yeah, I'm dealing with Cohen here, so show me the money.
Our soon-to-be guest here on the show, Tom, goes, yes, brings unwanted attention to the team, worth firing. We'll get into that more with Tom when he joins us live. But make sure you've already downloaded the Twitch app. I'm sure for those of you who have already joined our show, you've done that, and I thank you for it. But if you know people who haven't already, download the Twitch app to your phone, whether you have Android or iOS, and make sure to subscribe to the pod because that's how you get your notifications when they show up, and that's how you know when the show goes live. And especially on a day like today where it's Tuesday, not your typical Monday schedule, it's a good reminder. So make sure to subscribe to us, leadingoff_podcast on Twitch. Espo, it's time for your pick of the day. Take it away, pal.
The ESPO has been on quite a stretch lately, and it has not been a good stretch, to say the least. No. Man, I really hope for those that have been following the show, I hope if you are a gambling man or woman that you have been fading my picks because, man, I don't seem to know what the hell I'm doing. But
no, not at all.
Tonight we're going to take a chance on a good team against a very slumping team. The Milwaukee Brewers are hosting the Phillies tonight in Miller Park. Or no, not Miller Park anymore. American Family Field, we should call it.
Like it. Yep.
I'm always going to call it Miller Park, though. But that's just me. So right now, their money line is about even money on DraftKings. So that just means they have to win outright tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Nola pitching for the Phils versus Eric Lauer of the Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
Nola's he's been having a rough year, and Lauer's been pitching real solid of late. And I like the Brewers at home; they're a damn fine team. So let's ride with the Brewers tonight.
Not a guaranteed. Phillies have been playing good ball. That's a tough pick. Both teams are playing very well. Lauer's rather unproven, but as you mentioned, a solid year for him on the sub-4 ERA.
I take chances, man. Nothing ever easy here.
Listen, I'm with it. I like the move here. Brewers over Phillies for ESPO. You guys know the deal. ESPO is going to keep you updated on Twitter, so make sure to follow us at LOF Podcast. Follow him at The Life of ESPO. And of course, we'll see if ESPO can get this one right.
Sorry, Brewers fans, if I
have to go back in the old shows and see what the record is after all these bets, but it's not in the favor of
it's probably better if we just don't. Let's just take me on my word for it. It's not great, but yeah, I'm actually, you know what? Always got to be confident in yourself, though. So I'm betting on myself, really, is what I'm doing.
That's what the ESPO pick of the day has been. It's been you betting on yourself. And it honestly wouldn't have been fun if you were just getting all these picks right. It's actually a lot of fun seeing you get them all almost wrong and seeing if you can actually win one.
I would say it'd be a lot more funner if I was winning more of them, but that's just me.
For the audience, no. For you, absolutely. Of course, we wish you the best. Make sure to follow us again on Twitter at LOF Podcast. You follow ESPO at
The Life of ESPO.
And you can follow me at Rich J Rivera. Thought my fucking Wi-Fi went out again. But more importantly, you can follow our special guest tonight at Wospil54 on Twitter and Instagram. He's very familiar with the baseball streams on Twitch, as he's my co-host of Savages in the Bronx, which of course you can tune into later on tonight, 8:00 p.m. Eastern time, another Tuesday special. Of course, ESPO is going to hop on as our +1 later. But for now, he's our special guest for the second time on Leading Off. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Wospil joins us on the show. What's up, Tom?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we doing?
How you doing, sir?
Doing great.
We're good. Andrew Velasquez is playing shortstop. Therefore, the 2 ground balls hit the shortstop in the first inning. We're outs. So it's a good start for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Future Gold Glover.
That's what I'm talking about. I love it when a defensive replacement that is an upgrade over Glaber is playing and making outs. Torres had oh my God, was it on Sunday, Tom? Or yes, I forgot. I think it was Sunday when he backpedaled on a ball, kind of lollied it over the first, and then it led to a 2-run home run from Cedric Mullins. The Orioles obviously went on to win that game. Just horrible play for the Yankees this past weekend.
Yeah, not good. They're so up and down this year, and right now, when they're down, they're very down. And right now, we're hitting a rock bottom again. So hopefully, there's another one of those winning streaks. Hopefully, starting, if we make it, starting around October 4th or so, we can go on like a 15, 16 game winning streak, and then.
Thomas, what was the biggest mistake of the Yankees trade deadline? Trading for Joey Gallo or trading for Andrew Heaney?
I don't know. I mean, listen, Gallo hasn't been good. But I don't know if we're ready to grade that as a complete failure. He's here next year too.
Give him a chance, all right? He's got one more year.
I don't know what that was, but congrats on that one, Espo. Heaney's been horrible. I know they gave up 2 prospects for him, but he's been really bad. It's really, honestly, it's the Yankee front office who has decided they're going to keep rolling with Andrew Heaney when he's bad, and you could just bring up any number of guys to replace him on the roster, but they're too proud to do it. So
yeah, it's fucking horrible. It's a horrible display of baseball. Heaney has been great, but it's also like you guys have made the decision to stick with Brooks Kriske and Nick Nelson in the bullpen when you've had a chance to bring in a young elite arm and Luis Heel. And I get it. Like, he's a starting pitcher. He's proven he's a weapon in the rotation. And currently right now it's a little bit crowded. I'm going to obviously play realistic here. The Yankees aren't taking out Cole, Tyone, Kluber, or Montgomery. Nestor Cortez might be the only player that they could possibly take out of the rotation, but it's like Cortez has pitched well. So your only choice there is maybe find Heel a 6th spot in the rotation in this stretch where you don't have a day off, but that's probably it. But Heel should be in the bullpen at the least, Tom.
He should. And honestly, at this point, Andrew Heaney also isn't a reliever. He doesn't have guys that Heel translates to the bullpen because he can, he's a big arm. So, he's bringing a big fastball to the game and can empty the tank in, an inning or two. Andrew Heaney's not that guy. Andrew Heaney in the bullpen is just Andrew Heaney's a starter just for one inning. So it's just bad. That's why the idea of if they could get Severino back, the idea of Severino coming out of the bullpen if he was able to get healthy enough to rehab is kind of scary because I think he could really be a filthy weapon if he can just get himself healthy again.
Now, mind me for being the pessimist to start the show off, but Tom, how confident are you that the Yankees are still going to crack a spot in the playoffs this year?
I think they're still going to. Who knows? I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to judge. That's foul. Ooh, just
watching the game.
Yeah, of course.
I
mean, listen, it's research. So, I think they'll still make the wild card game, whether they host it or not. Who knows? But personally, I don't count making the wild card game and losing making the playoffs. In my eyes, if you get to the wild card game in 2015 or whatever, we lost to Houston. We didn't make the playoffs that year. There was no playoffs. A 1-game wild card does not count. So, who knows if they get in? And listen, they've just shown they could get hot. They get in, they get hot, they have a shot. But they're back to their losing ways, which is just it's ridiculous after coming off being so hot to then just go back to beforehand. It's perplexing.
You really don't want to face.
Do you have any confidence that No, continue. I'm sorry.
You guys really don't want to face Chris Sale in a 1-game playoff, do you?
I don't think anyone wants to face Garrett Cole in a 1-game playoff. So
no, that would be.
I'll take my chances with Garrett Cole against anyone.
Yeah.
Sale versus Cole, wouldn't that be a spicy matchup to kick off?
It would be, but I mean, the Yankees also could throw a massive right-handed lineup against Sale. Not saying Sale can't pitch to righties, but
Anthony Rizzo has proven that he can hit lefties. But as of
lately,
listen,
if that game is played tomorrow, Rizzo's the only lefty in the lineup. Gallo, I don't think you could put out there right now in a 1-game playoff. Oh, defensively, he's been really good.
Unless he's a defensive replacement. That's simple as that. Well, Tom Wospil, he's on with us from Savages in the Bronx, obviously my co-host of the show, and you can check out the show later tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch as always. But the main reason why we have Tom on tonight is he's joining us for another edition of Top of the Order, where Espo and I have brought on our guest, and we like to talk about our top 3 favorites or worst, depending on the topic. So keeping with our Subway Series theme for both shows tonight, we're going to dive into the Yankees-Mets rivalry, and we're going to talk about the top 3 most memorable moments of the Yankees-Mets rivalry for as long as you can remember, really. So here it is, Top of the Order, your top 3 most memorable moments of the Mets and Yankees Subway Series rivalry. So, Thomas, we always start with our guest and what they think should be in their top 3, and we obviously start from the bottom down. So let's bottom down. That's not possible. That's in the negative. We'll start from the bottom up. So we'll start there, number 3 spot. Tom, what is in your number 3 spot? Most memorable moment of the Yankees-Mets rivalry?
So most memorable, just to kind of start the list off, I have the first Subway Series regular season game played. June 16th, 1997. Mets won that game in Yankee Stadium. The Yankees ended up winning the series, so I just want to point that out, Espo. But it started it. I mean, it took a New York sports talk radio topic, for years and years, who would win if they play, and they made it into reality. I think that first one's important. The city jump in at that point and just really led to a lot of very exciting games to come.
All right. Love it. Resulted again, as you mentioned, that first game into a Mets win. Yankees won that series. Espo, your number 3 spot.
Gotta give a shout out to Dave Malicki pitching that shutout in that first game. But
all right,
my number 3, Carlos Delgado setting the franchise record. He had 9 RBIs in the first game of a crosstown doubleheader about when was that? 2008. Yeah. So Bit of a while back, but kind of a random memory. There's not a ton of great Mets memories in this Subway Series ranking,
Said
so
that
you
right.
gotta pick your spots. But it was just an incredible offensive performance that Delgado put on that day. Obviously, the 9 RBIs, a couple of home runs, one including a grand slam off of Yankee legend Ross Ohlendorf.
Oh God,
Had to say that name. I know you guys wanted to hear it.
damn! And he was another one that was like very touted in the system. He was going to come up with like the Phil Hugheses and the Ian Kennedys and the Tyler Clippards of the world and be a stud, and it just didn't work out. My number 3 spot, not really a singular moment, but the fact that both teams went out and opened their stadiums in the same year, 2009. From what I remember, I believe Citi Field was blueprinted first, and the Yankees just kind of jumped in and stole their headline and said, "Hey, we're also going to open up our own stadium." But where both teams fucked up, no goddamn retractable roof in goddamn New York. Like, come on, guys, what are we doing?
The U.S. Open, they've learned the mistakes of the Mets and the Yankees. They got themselves a roof, but hopefully in another 30 or 40 years when they make new stadiums, they better put a damn roof. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think 30 and 40 years. I don't think. Well, maybe 40 years new stadium, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, those stadiums cost a lot. They're both very nice. Been to both of them, so hopefully they stick around for a while.
Hot take. I actually am a bigger fan of Citi Field more than I am Yankee Stadium. Hot take. Love Citi Field.
Hot take. They're both in dumps.
But they're both in dumps. Yeah, they're both in dumps. Literally, as Joe Puglisi said last week in his epic rant on the show, Citi Field, the worst commute to get to. And then of course the stadium is in just the Bronx, middle of the fucking Bronx.
Also, again, I've been to Citi Field twice. I think it is very nice, but if I have to hear one more time that they have a Shake Shack and that's why it's a superior stadium, it's just take a
so overrated.
Go get a Shake. I love Shake Shack, but
it's good, but I'm not going to waste friggin'
you're going to
3
miss
innings in line.
If you're lucky, 3 innings in line.
Right.
So get that out of here.
Moving on from Shake Shack and their delicious burgers, Tom, your number 2 spot.
Number 2 spot, I have from the 2000 World Series, Clemens throwing the bat at Mike Piazza. This is really the second part of the story of I'm sure a moment we will hear about later, right? We'll hear another Piazza Clemens moment.
I think so.
Yeah, a crazy moment in the World Series. I watched the video again earlier. It's like not talked about enough. Incredible that Roger Clemens catches a bat that is flying at him, bouncing, doing crazy flips. He just catches it. He didn't pick it up. Catches it, throws it. He says, "I thought it was the ball, but that doesn't make sense. Why would you throw the ball off unless he thought it was foul?" Listen, Clemens was at that point, roid raging, lunatic normally. So it's a moment, and especially the other moment we'll talk about later. You can't defend as a Yankee fan, but for that to happen in the World Series on the biggest stage, it made things hot. It was definitely a moment that people will never forget.
I'll have more to say on Clemens. I'll have more to say on that. All right, Espo, you're number 2.
Number 2, this is a very popular moment, I'm sure, for a lot of Mets fans of my generation. That was David Wright's walk-off in the 2006 Subway Series at Shea Stadium. For me, this is when I really started believing in the magic of what the 2006 Mets could accomplish. Obviously,
more on that later.
More on that later, yes. But Mariano Rivera, David Wright, two big names in the history of both franchises. So the fact that they were involved in this moment just adds to the allure of it. And again, not a whole lot going on for the Mets in these moments, but you gotta take the happy moments where you can get them, and this was definitely one of them.
Number 2 is a moment that I watched the full game for. It was a moment that I remember where I was when I saw the moment happen. It is a moment that will make Espo frown when he sees this. But my number 2 is Luis Castillo dropping the ball in the regular season, a Subway Series game in 2009. Alex Rodriguez up at the dish. little pop up right
Perfectly
behind.
placed ball. He knew.
Perfectly
A-Rod
placed
knew
ball.
where to hit it. You know, the
Yes.
clutch performer. He knew. Listen, I don't need to hit it out. I don't even need to hit it out of the infield.
Right.
I just need to hit it up to Luis Castillo.
Yes. Would have been a home run in an elevator shaft anyway, Espo. But Luis Castillo had the ball in his glove. Ball popped out of the glove. Yankees ended up winning. Teixeira scoring all the way from first base. That's hustle right there with Teixeira. And the Yankees ended up winning that game. And to the scourge of New York Mets fans like young Espo right there. Espo, where were you when that happened?
I was in the 7th layer of hell when that happened. Yeah. But no, I was actually at home watching the game. And I was like, oh, my God, we're going to win this game. We came back, and Frankie Rodriguez, he had been perfect in the season up to that point. And the rest, they say, is history. And moving on.
Moving on. Tom, you're number one.
Number one, I have game number 4 of the real Subway Series, the 2000 World Series, where Derek Jeter leads off the game with the home run. It's really I think it's the biggest moment. It's a massive moment. It helps cement Jeter winning that World Series MVP. It's a World Series that even though the Yankees won in 5, they didn't win any game by more than 1 run. So every win was, again, by 1 run. So every run really counts a lot. They won game 5. 4-2, but still, granted, not a lot of run differential in that game, in that series. They had just come off of losing game 3. They had won the first games at home. Game 3 back in Shea, the Mets pull out the win. Mets had the chance to really, get the momentum back going, tie the series up, and who knows what happens. And Jeter leads off the game with a home run, setting the tone. In a bit of breaking the will, breaking the bats, the Mets, the backs and the bats, whatever, everything. They broke them. Yep. Mets are broken. Captain Jeter, great moment. Number 1.
Great fucking moment in Yankees history right there. Espo, you're number 1.
You Yankees fans may take my dignity, but you may never take Dae-Sung Koo. What an absolutely magic moment in the history of the Subway Series. Dae-Sung Koo, perhaps one of the most obscure pitchers in the history of the franchise. He really was only there for about 5 minutes. He hits a double off of Randy Johnson, goes over Bernie Williams' head in center field. He scores on a mad dash from second on a sacrifice bunt, which was really just an incredible play. And what makes this even more incredible is I was actually at this game, my first ever Subway Series experience in person, and I got to see it with my very own eyes. So for that reason alone, it's by far the number 1 moment that I will never forget.
It's funny because I'm like, I honestly completely forgot about that moment, given the fact that the Yankees have had a lot more better moments in their franchise history. So I just forget about bad moments that happen. But Corey Fabs didn't forget, because in his number 2, he did top 3 too. He has Dae-Sung Koo at bat and scoring. So obviously it's a moment that's lived in Mets infamy.
It's kind of like a cult classic moment, if you will.
I don't know if you stooged off your list, because Corey also has David Wright with the walk-off hit off Mariano at his number 1 spot as well. So so can agree. Dae-Sung Koo, that's a character right there. I forgot he pitched until I saw the picture of him with the fucking the warm-up on. I was like,
jacket.
Oh wow,
he had the jacket on. Yep.
Look at that. So Dae-Sung Koo scoring on that play there. Number 1 for Espo, and for me, this was mentioned before by Tom, but again, just to put emphasis on it, is Roger Clemens throwing the bat, the shattered bat, the bat shard at Mike Piazza in Game 2 of the World Series. And Tom really pretty much covered it, which is what he always does best on Savages in the Bronx. But yeah, fucking great moment. Really, really got the fans going, in that really spiced up that rivalry between the Yankees and the Mets. You love seeing it. And honestly, besides that, you never really saw the Yankees and Mets come together in a benches clearing incident. And that was the top of it, at least from what I can remember. Kind of like to see a little bit of that maybe this weekend. Maybe get a little Yankees-Mets heated at each other. And again, these are two teams that are chasing the playoffs right now. Mets are playing better ball of the last week. The Yankees have faltered since their 13-game winning streak. I can't think of anything more invigorating than possibly a benches clearing incident that could happen this weekend. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, it would be something. The only other, I didn't know if we were going to get to talking, I guess, what really brought up the bat throwing, which was, it's probably one of the scariest moments in the rivalry, and that's earlier. Oh, and Rich doesn't want to talk about it. So Rich
might have lost him.
But it's there he's back. But it's, you know, it's Clemens hitting Piazza in the head earlier that season, which is what really brought the fire to what happened later in the World Series. It's the moment that is extremely scary. You know, thank God, that like Piazza ended up being okay and has, you know, proven to be okay since. But that moment is scary. I wanted to bring it up because when I was looking up things about the rivalry, I found something kind of pretty, I think pretty funny, an article about when Clemens hit Piazza in the head. In the article, it says, in any case, the Mets were furious. So was Piazza, who wrote in his 2014 autobiography that he had a blunt response when Clemens called the Mets clubhouse to apologize. Tell him to go fuck himself.
Damn.
Which I thought
love it.
is such a great response to tell just he hit me right square in the forehead.
Classic.
Fuck himself.
Classic.
Listen, I mean, I feel like I might have said worse. So
right. Oh, I'm with it. I want that intensity this weekend. I want to see that intensity in baseball, honestly. I fucking love brawls. I'm all about it. Yeah, I don't promote violence. No, but I am kind of promoting violence a little bit. But I love fucking seeing it. I love when teams come together. It's crazy. It's great. It's fucking MLB. What's that game? Oh, MLB Slugfest. Oh, man. I love seeing it play out.
Listen, I don't know if the Mets want any part of that. The Yankees got some pretty big boys up there that I can't imagine would have someone really going toe to toe with them.
Well, with the way they've been playing, they're going to be swinging and missing at a few of these Mets guys. They come after them. So, but we'll see how it goes. Tom, it was a pleasure having you on once again. I'll see you soon, or we'll see you soon together. 8 p.m. Eastern time, of course, on Twitch, Savages in the Bronx. And make sure to follow at Savages Bronx and at Wospil54. Tom, we'll see you soon, bud.
See you guys.
Take care. And as Thomas departs, again, just to remind you, Savage in the Bronx, 8 p.m. as always on Twitch, usually on Mondays, but for this special edition of the show, it is on a Tuesday. All right, ESPO, we're going to wrap up our show as quickly as possible with a new What If. And, of course, we're taking inspiration from the new Marvel series that's on Disney Plus and channeling our, I guess, our inner watcher. If for you big Marvel fans who know the show, we're going to see what happens if something had changed in baseball history and what implications it would have had long-term, short-term, all that good stuff. And we mentioned this last week on the show of what our new What If was going to be. And, of course, we're sticking with our Subway Series theme and going with the New York Mets here. What if Duaner Sanchez skipped his taxi cab on July 30th, 2006. Now, I know ESPO's got a lot to say on this one, so just let me set the scene here with Duaner Sanchez. And here he is, nice little picture of this young gentleman at the time. Duaner Sanchez was having a miraculous season out of the Mets bullpen, a strong Mets bullpen, to say the least. You know, they had Billy Wagner in there who was closing down games, but Sanchez, a stable force, a 2.60 ERA for him in 55 innings pitched. Very effective, but unfortunately for Sanchez, he gets into a taxi cab. Now, granted, this is not the actual taxi cab that he got into the accident with, but he got into a taxi cab on the July 30th, 2006 in the early morning hours in Miami, Florida. And unfortunately for Sanchez, he would end up injuring his shoulder, separating it, and which it would require season-ending surgery. Now, as you fast forward, the Mets still end up getting as far as the Game 7 of the NLCS, where, of course, Met fans remember this moment, and they don't want to remember this moment. It involved Carlos Beltran in the very last at-bat, 2 strikes on him, and seeing that curveball come over the middle of the plate, and the Cardinals ended up winning the game and moving on to the World Series, which they won over the Detroit Tigers. But of course, it's what if, ladies and gentlemen. And on what if, we try to go back in time. We reverse history. We set a new timeline. So ESPO, Duaner Sanchez skips his taxi cab. He doesn't get hurt. He doesn't separate his shoulder, at least at the time. And the Mets are back where they are. They're in the World Series, possibly Game 7, maybe earlier. ESPO, how would this have played out if Duaner Sanchez was healthy and ready to pitch?
If Duaner Sanchez never gets hurt in 2006, I am probably a millionaire and making my first run for Senate. But that's besides the point.
Interesting.
Trust me, man. I think about this often, far too often, how differently my life would have shaken out if Duaner Sanchez didn't get in that cab. But as for the Mets, I think they would win the 2006 World Series without a question.
There they are.
Aaron
and they're
Heilman,
celebrating. That's the timeline. They're celebrating the World Series in 2006. They just beat the Detroit Tigers, maybe swept them. ESPO, I mean, that's where it starts. And usually the conversation with Met fans, they all think the Mets were just going to topple the Detroit Tigers in 2006. Now, granted, the Tigers did get their asses kicked by the Cardinals, but 2006 Tigers weren't really a joke. They had a solid team, solid rotation. Offense was good. What makes you feel that confident that the Mets would have just ran train over the Tigers?
Every Mets fan knows 2006 was our year. It was the year. They just had everything. They just had the momentum. They had the magic. It's really hard to articulate into words what that team meant to every Mets fan, especially Mets fans of my age, of my generation. That was the first Mets team that they were really able to fall in love with. So, man, I don't need this what if segment. I've been thinking about this for the last 15 years. God damn it!
All right, so now let's talk long term. The Mets win the World Series in 2006. The moment between Beltran and Wainwright does not happen. But, Sanchez enters that game. It's still a tie game. So how you really feel like the Mets were just going to come back and win this game against the Cardinals? Let's say you're right. They win the World Series. They're now champions. This team is probably not going to be aggressive in the offseason. And I know it was a couple of off seasons later, but maybe they don't make that move for Jason Bay. Jason Bay probably isn't a Met because the team just isn't as aggressive enough since they already won their championship. Do you feel that would have been true, or do you think Bay was just destined to become a Met?
I think the opposite would have been true. I think winning a title would have further emboldened them to go for it and build a winner and try and build a dynasty. Nando, I think they pull off a trade for Johan Santana. Maybe not. Mm-hmm. Maybe a whole nother what if. Maybe Pedro, his health holds up and that contract turns out well for the Mets. But that's a whole other story. But I do think that winning in 2006 would have drastically altered the course of the franchise.
Absolutely. With a World Series winner, David Wright gets his championship that he was obviously came pretty close to getting in 2015. But yeah, it would be nice to have seen some of those guys finally get that championship ring that they've been looking for years. But yeah, it is crazy to think.
Just want one.
Go for it. Oh, I thought you were gonna make one more point.
No, I just want one championship. That's all I want.
Give this man a fucking title.
Just one.
This poor guy. I will say this, and this is me being a full supporter of New York baseball and seeing my friends fucking happy. When it comes down to it, and as long as the Mets aren't playing the Yankees in the World Series, I'm all on the Mets train, and that might irk Tom. But that's the truth. I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. If that team's in the World Series, I'd like to see them try to fucking win it. And I want to see my friends finally be gifted a championship. I'm sick of the complaints. I'm sick of the depression from them. I want to see them.
Wouldn't it be nice to hear me shut up?
Oh, yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great just to finally just stop with the depression and the whole nonsense. And I get it. It's been so long. You've never seen one. I hope this team finally fucking does it within the next few years. They have the capability to do it. But in 2006, they could have been one piece away from doing that if he did not get into a taxi cab on July 30th, 2006. And of course, we'll do another What If in a couple of weeks, as they are a lot of fun. And it's cool to see what would have possibly happened if certain events would have carried differently. ESPO, we're ending the show late, 7:45. Make sure to tune in to Savage in the Bronx at 15 minutes time. ESPO, anybody you want to thank before we send the fans home happy, which, by the way, we won't see you guys next Monday. We will see you here in 2 Mondays on the 20th. So September 20th will be our next show. So no live episode leading off next Monday. But ESPO, take it away.
I'd like to thank you, the viewers. I also like to thank the wonderful executive producer, Rich Rivera, for always putting on a good broadcast and for featuring some great talent on his next program, Savages in the Bronx.
That is true. And we'll see you soon as well, ESPO. Thank you all for tuning in once again. We'll see you here on September the 20th on Monday, our normal day. And take care, friends. Have a good one.